There's a thing that a lot of franchises do when they come to their spectacular conclusion, where they will look back on other films in the franchise and they'll say, how do we tie it all together? How do we make this feel like a event for the fans? And that is exactly what Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning does. I've heard a lot about this film being a mess, being clunky, stretching itself to really get to the action set pieces. I don't think that is wrong. I would agree with all that. But my God, was this film nonetheless amazing?
This appears to be the final installment potentially for the Mission Impossible franchise. But at least we have more running, more haircuts, and more stunts
Yes.
from the man himself, Tom Cruise, who is literally saving cinema. And you'll see a surge of memes recently of him eating popcorn and just having a great time. And that is so inspiring to see. The man who loves Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, the vaudeville genre, all those things that he was so inspired to make into the Mission Impossible franchise. And I'm hoping not a lot of people would have seen behind the scenes stunts, because seeing the stunts incredible. I mean, we have Tom climbing on the Burj Khalifa, clinging literally the side of a plane. He flew a helicopter. I forgot where, but he flew a helicopter
Somewhere.
and somewhere and rode a motorbike off a mountain. So it's just so cool just to see him. And he's gonna still do it till he's 100. Mission
He is.
Impossible, you gotta trust me one last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One final time. He
Yeah.
really is committed. And this is what it's all about. When this film is at its peak, when it fires on all cylinders, you can't help but sit back and hit the Martin Scorsese pose. Because it is absolute cinema. And I can't wait to talk about it. Cue the music.
This is the Out of Time Film Podcast, where your hosts Tom and John discuss everything from blockbuster films to TV and games like there's no tomorrow.
I feel like it should be Light the Fuse. And like we need like the
Yes. Like the
bum,
fuse.
bum,
Yeah.
bum.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
okay,
That'd
well,
be
that
cool.
Final Reckoning, we're following on from Dead Reckoning, part one, allegedly. Ethan has the key, but Gabriel is in the wind, and the entity, it's coming. It's taking control of all of the world's technology, most pressingly the nuclear arsenals. So in this film, it's a race against time. Doomsday clock is going, and Ethan and the team have 3 days to defeat the entity. And the audience has 3 hours to watch it all unfold. Oh boy. So, okay, a few weeks ago, months ago, we talked about The Electric State. That's a film that cost $320 million. And I said no film should cost that amount of money. And here comes Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The Virgin Electric State versus the Chad Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And it cost $400 million. That is a lot. COVID delays, paying the cast and crew the right amount, the stunts, the set pieces. They closed down the bridge in front of Big Ben in London. And that's a bridge that not even James Bond could do. Like Inspector, they just had to rebuild it. It's so tricky to shut down that bridge because obviously it's massively busy and iconic. But this film, unlike The Electric State, you can see that budget on screen.
Yeah.
However, I still stand by the fact that no film should cost that much. And as much as this film does a great amount with this budget, really? So this film has to gross at least 800 million to even think about breaking even. That is ridiculous. Like, come on. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's mad. I knew that Tom was gonna blow the budget in one way or another. He's like, you have to trust me one last time, okay? Like literally, I was in the IMAX just like, oh my God, this is just incredible what went into this. But 400 million, that is just insane to think about. Like, sure, you gotta provide all the cast and the crew, but there's some sets that they must have secured to get into this, and the stunts as well. The stunts were just, again, insane for this movie.
There is a lot to talk about on this one. This film is, for now, the finale. This is the end, unless it makes a boat ton of money. Who knows if it does? I am skeptical, especially since Dead Reckoning didn't make as much money as they wanted. But also, this is on track to have the largest opening for the franchise of all time, opening with over 200 million in the opening weekend. So this could do really well. We will see. It's all a case of we shall see. I think that this does come together with Dead Reckoning to make a really great finale. But this film definitely tries a bit too hard to bring together the whole saga, especially in the opening moments of the film. My God, Eddie Hamilton, the editor who has edited Dead Reckoning, Fallout, Rogue Nation, he goes Instagram edit, TikTok edit with how many cuts he does to the other movies.
The
Well,
brain rot is spreading onto screen.
right? Yes, I can see it in front of me. The Entity. We see so much
Yeah.
of the other films, and as somebody who I spent the last week rewatching all the films, there is not a
Oh.
single bad Mission Impossible movie. They are all incredible. Did we really
Yeah.
need this highlight reel?
It was so funny. Throughout the movie, they show a lot of things to bring together the saga, like clips from Mission Impossible 1 or Mission Impossible 3. I don't know if they referred to the other ones. I think
It's
it was
a
mainly 1 and 3 that they
yeah.
keep showing back. Like, it was just so funny. It would be like a jump scare. Mission Impossible flashback. Mission Impossible flashback. It's treating us like we don't remember anything from the
Yeah.
franchise. It's just treating us like we have dementia or something. Like, oh my God, what? This happened.
They even do it for earlier in the film. And it's like, guys,
Yeah.
I haven't looked down. I haven't looked away. I'm locked in right now.
I'm not on my phone. The IMAX
Yes,
cinema told me not to
exactly.
be on my phone.
God, can you imagine spending close to 20 quid on a cinema ticket to go on your phone?
Mate,
Just
I was
ridiculous.
trusting Cruise all the way through. I was like, Tom, I've spent a lot of money on this seat, okay?
I don't want to waste it all on having Subway Surfers on next to it. There's actually the moment where Ethan says to somebody, spend less time on the internet before he knocks him out. And I thought that was so great. I just thought that was brilliant. Because yeah, man, turn off this podcast. Go watch Mission Impossible. You know, we're not important.
Put it on IMAX screen and you just hear us talking, on that. Yeah.
Nobody wants that, John. Not even I want that. And I have to edit this. Okay, so there's a lot of Ethan Hunt in this film, a lot of Tom Cruise. This is probably the most Tom Cruise solo since the first film, much less team play. And oh boy, do we get to see Tom Cruise in his underwear a lot. My God. Like, whoa.
Here it is,
Like,
yeah.
there's a lot of action set pieces of him in his boxers and him swimming in the Arctic in his boxers. I did think that was quite funny.
Yeah.
But as always, Ethan is a man dedicated and a man who cares so much about his friends. And you believe in the desperation of this film. You believe that the Entity is so unbeatable. It is terrifying. The stakes are phenomenal. Even though the trailers have showed you everything again, even though you know exactly what's going to happen, you watched some of the set pieces and it's nail biting. You sat there and you're just like, how the hell is anyone going to survive this? I love that. That's what you need. I don't believe that a finale for a franchise needs callbacks and links to the past. What I do think it needs is fantastic and higher than ever stakes, and this film delivered on that.
For sure, there was a lot of build-up in the first half of the movie because he gave us so much information, a lot of things to process, a lot of callbacks. It's a lot of revising and exposition, like we need to know the stakes of this movie. However, it does highlight the importance of the theme of destiny. This is something that we see throughout the franchise, is that somehow Ethan survives a lot of this.
Ethan Hunt is the living manifestation of destiny.
Oh my God. You could just literally survive a nuclear blast or something. But in this, it's tried to highlight the end of the series, well, question mark. And there's the emotional stake of this movie as well. There's the whole doomsday feel to it, and it feels so unbeatable against this entity, this AI that reflects very much our own world. And it was so intense. Watching on the IMAX was just so incredible to watch, and you can see so much in detail. It completely just takes up your peripheral.
There's a moment when the entity is almost screaming at you, and you can kind of feel it. Last week we talked about Andor, how that show stresses the importance of the truth. And in this film, AI really blurs the lines of the truth, just like in reality. And that sends people into madness. It sends the world into chaos. And it almost makes sense that the entire movie is about empathy and it's about human connection being the most important thing, and how the only way to defeat the entity is by doing things that only humans can do and working together and having that human judgment, that human call, have something done in a blink of an eye. And we have a whole subplot with the president of the US, who was the director of the CIA in Fallout. about Angela Bassett. And there's this whole question of when all but one of the nuclear arsenals are in possession of the entity, what do you do? Do you, with the only remaining active nuclear arsenal, strike so the entity cannot kill any? Do you sacrifice millions to save billions? Is that something you can ever live with? It's a call that only a human could make. And that's kind of all throughout this franchise. Saving a life. I thought that was all really great.
Yeah, that was great. This cast is huge. Klementieff, she was badass in this movie. It was great to see her again from Dead Reckoning into this. And there was a much more emotional side we get to see her in this. But one of the actors in this that caught my attention was Tramell Tillman from Severance. He's the guy in the submarine.
Yes!
So,
I loved him.
So he was amazing in Severance, but he was amazing in this.
Some incredible bit roles in this film. People who show up briefly but make a really big mark. Hannah Waddingham, Tramell Tillman, as you're saying, Katie O'Brien, Hull McCallany, Nick Offerman, Charles Parnell, Mark Gatiss.
Mark Gatiss, yeah. Everyone's in this.
And we even get more play from people from the last movie, like Greg Tarzan Davis, people who get to step up and be really cool. I really liked all that. Also, point on Pom Klementieff. She did all her own stunts.
100%.
Really, really great stuff. So this is the same cinematographer as Dead Reckoning, but this film doesn't look nearly as good as that. There's something about the use of lighting and the use of space and dramatic angles in Dead Reckoning that I loved. It was a callback to De Palma in the first movie. I love the darkness to it, but I also love the vibrancy. And I just don't know what happened with this one. I mean, the film still looks great, don't get me wrong, but I missed the drama of it. I missed the willingness to be out there. A lot of blockbusters look the same, and I'm not saying this looks bad, but Dead Reckoning really surprised me with those elements, and you don't really get that here. I don't think that a single action scene in this film comes close to the Venice scene in Dead Reckoning. Now, don't get me wrong, there are set pieces that are some of the best that we've ever seen, but in terms of action, that might be the peak of the franchise for me.
Yes.
There are things that just don't really live up. The last two films were scored by Lorne Balfe, who just absolutely smashed the score. And in this one, Alfie Godfrey, good score, but not as good.
Yeah, it didn't caught my attention. There was one, the submarine section, that particular got my attention with the score. But throughout, some of the things didn't get my attention with the score. But Lorne Balfe, he did so amazing for the last two films. I do agree with the cinematography as well. To go back to the cinematography, it didn't really align with all the action. I mean, Fallout has the best cinematography that you get to see in the franchise.
Fallout is still the best of the franchise. I think there's no competition. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, the action is shot well. Just the conversation scenes do suffer a little bit. This might be a COVID thing, but everyone felt like they were in different rooms at points, and that's always a pet peeve of mine. And so, like, yeah, there were moments, but like overall, it doesn't massively come into stuff. You know, obviously the editing was whack, way more than the cinematography. But the main thing is that I say this quite a lot for films that are already 3 hours long, but it was too short. I'm sorry, but it was too short.
I agree. It should be longer because there was some things in the movie that were trying to build up the emotional character building. We want to discover more, something to have a bit more like character investment. We're treating this as like the final bit to have 400 million already on the table.
Yeah. To expand this point, I feel like we got to get into spoilers. As messy as this film is, it's still great. It still hits where it needs to hit. It may be one of my least favorite of the franchise, but it's not an overwhelming disappointment. I did really enjoy it. But yeah, to get into spoilers, we start the film with so much exposition. The dialogue felt so forced in that first opening 20 minutes or so. And they have to break Pom Clementieff's character out of prison, which is such a short sequence, and there's like a very brief mask. For the final film, what could be the final film, you gotta have a mask. You gotta have like a really good use of a mask. And for them not to do that did feel a bit like a bit of a shame. And a lot of people in this film just show up and are like, haha, I'm here too. And it's like, how the hell did you get here? Like at the end of the film, Kittredge shows up and is like, well, Ethan, I've caught you. And it's like, where the hell did you come from, dude? You know, there's a lot of this that they're throwing in so much. Things do slip through. A major one for me, maybe my biggest nitpick of this film. One of the things we all look for in a Mission Impossible is that moment where something so hype happens and you lean forward and the music starts to go and then it cuts to the title credits. Incredible. This film, the title credits cut was a bit nothing.
No,
it was just nothing. Like Ethan Hunt being like, I killed 3 people. Titles, it's like, what?
I don't know why. That kind of felt like a Family Guy thing. It just felt like a Family Guy. It's just like, hey, Peter, I killed 3 people. Kill the beetle. I don't know.
Very
And
good.
then
Because the last one, when Ethan puts on the Kittredge mask, there's that
yes.
little smirk.
Like how you sit there for 20 minutes, like how on earth are we going to get for this movie? And then that mask reveal was just awesome. It's just like, okay,
Yes.
I'm in. This is how we do it.
Yes.
Or like Fallout, tell you do the fake out.
I tell you what, as well, with the Dead Reckoning title drop, Lorne Balfe with the drums. The drums, when that title,
Yeah.
it's so exciting. And you just don't feel that.
And this movie, one thing that I criticize is the technology side of the Mission Impossible franchise. Like in Ghost Protocol, in the hallway sequence, that's some of the things of the
Yes.
technology that we miss in this final film. Like there's some things that make Mission Impossible crazy or fun. We don't get to see that. The entity will find a way to override that
Yeah,
hacking.
the thing is, obviously we have to lose the technological element here, but there was a really great opportunity to be like, oh, what little ways are they going to use? Like, what analog things are they going to do to try and still get cool gadgets, but not the entity? We don't really get that. This film, the espionage takes a massive step back. There's barely any espionage in this one. There's a bit where they infiltrate a party and then that scene is over in like a minute. You just don't get any of that stuff, and it's a shame. But of course, the two main set pieces, the submarine and the planes, were just incredible. And again, I need to avoid trailers for Mission Impossible movies. I may never get a chance ever
I
again. It's not as bad as Dead Reckoning, which just spoiled the entire stunt, but I had seen way too much of the planes and the submarine, which was a massive shame.
I didn't see much of it on the trailers. I was just like
Okay.
closing my eyes. I don't want to get spoiled too much for the stunts and stuff. So I was just looking at my phone when the trailer appeared. Like, I'm sorry, I had to look away. I had to look
Yeah,
away.
no,
I
yeah,
don't want to
fair.
see,
I was
it.
the
So
opposite. I was enthralled. They are so good. The submarine sequence is so eerie and so claustrophobic, and the fact that you can just see Tom Cruise, struggling to keep
yeah,
himself like
literally
up as
panicking.
the
Yeah.
water is changing levels and the set is very obviously rotating, and he literally gets inside a torpedo tube. Really great stuff. It's some of the best stuff they've ever done. The
Yeah.
underwater stuff was phenomenal, and then the plane. I mean, my God, when the IMAX ratio began, I was just cinema.
Seeing it on the biggest screen, oh, it was just amazing.
But it wasn't just any IMAX that you were at, John.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, everybody.
Of
I was just
course,
like glossing
that little
over.
detail.
Oh, that little detail. Tom Cruise. He was at one particular IMAX in Britain. The BFI cinema is a massive cinema. It's got just one single screen, the size of two double-decker buses. Tom was on top of this BFI cinema, and I was like, oh my God. But coincidentally, I had to see my sister down in London, and I was like, this is my moment to shine. I can see the kingdom of heaven. I could go to the big screen. I could see everything. So I went down, Tom Cruise style. I ran to the ticket. Well, I didn't. I just went online. I went down to the BFI.
Oh,
I
I love
saw
it.
it in
You
glory.
ran all the way down
And then I
the
had to
West
get on the
End.
train.
So that is the biggest screen in the UK and one of the biggest
Yeah.
screens in the world. I mean, what better way? I also saw this for IMAX.
When Ethan went upside down, I was
Oh,
like, what on earth is going on? Like,
amazing.
how committed he is.
They did
And
such a good job with him being on the wings and stuff. And Gabriel, who, Gabriel in this film is a
oh yeah,
mustache
Gabriel. I
twirling.
completely forgot about Gabriel.
Yeah, right? Like, he's a pawn. He's a plot device. In Dead Reckoning, they set up Gabriel as a villain from the past. And it's like, okay, that's irrelevant. This
Okay,
film did
buddy.
not justify that at all. But I did love at the end, he spends a good 20 minutes just cackling at Ethan. And I loved that his death was just he gets slammed into a plane and his head just explodes.
He's like, there's only one parachute, Ethan, and I'm getting out of here. And he just gets completely,
Yeah, squish.
It was quite satisfying to see that, actually.
It was.
Gabriel, as someone from the past, is like, hey, Ethan, I stole your sandwich, or something like that. And then he just goes away or something
Yeah,
like that.
that's such a. I don't know, man. I do criticize that level of having to connect everything. And this is, again, where some of those gaps in the plot start to appear. We find out in this film what the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3 was about. It is actually like the original source code for the entity. That was pointless as all shit. And I think it actively makes the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3 a little less good. The idea that we never knew what it was, this idea of the anti-god, what could it be? That's terrifying. J.J. Abrams loves his mystery box storytelling. This was an example of it working quite well. And now they just kind of ruin that. There's no point to it. I really think that they should have kept that mystery, and the need to connect everything worked to the detriment. Mission Impossible 3 was already very well connected with Ethan and Julia. That works wonderfully throughout 4, 5, 6, and now a little bit in 8 as well. But just adding the rabbit's foot, I don't know, man.
that didn't get me. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It just didn't really have like a plot twisting. I get why people were comparing it to Rise of Skywalker
Yeah, me too. I think that
with the callbacks
like
and stuff, trying to make plot twists and like,
yeah.
Dunlow. Oh yeah, Dunlow was in this as well. And it's like,
Oh, my guy, Dunlow. I thought he was great. He gets loads to
he's
do. He
great.
gets like an actual character arc. There is a line in the first movie where Kittredge says, send him off to Alaska, get him on a plane by the morning. And then like we get to see that. That was so cool. That scene with Mr. Russia. You know that one actor who is Russian and is in everything? He's in Indiana Jones and Die Hard and The Big Bang Theory. It's like you ever need a Russian guy, it's this dude. I loved Dunlow. One of the weirdest ones was that they they retcon Shea Wigham's character. They do a Dark Knight Rises, you know, at the end when it's like, you should use your real name, Robin. It's like, your real name is Jim Phelps, like your father.
Oh
And I was
yeah.
like, that's so silly.
I was like, what am I watching? The weirdest plot twists. And Jim Phelps, I was like, what? Why are we
Very
adding more plot
strange.
twists as well? The only good thing was Dunlow. That was the good thing about like trying to
Yes.
get that connection. That was a very strong connection. But trying to have something for his arc, which I didn't mind not knowing anything about his character in Dead Reckoning. I thought,
Yeah.
great, he is someone who just wants he just
Hunt!
wants Ethan.
That's actually all he did. Just yelled, Hunt!
Hunt! Having that flashback, plot twist, whatever you call it, Palpatine moment, it doesn't make the character interesting. He was already interesting, but now I just feel like it was just wasted for that moment. And then there was this weird arc at the end where Ethan wants to trust him again, so he does this handshake, like, hey, we can be the best of buddies again. And at the end, they do a handshake. It was a very weird moment in that movie. I just felt like, oh, okay, where is it going?
Yeah, you know, he didn't need to be the son of Jim Phelps for that handshake to work. I don't really understand it. There's just so many of
Yeah.
those weird connectivity moments. And as great as Donlow was, it's just, I had another point about the villain as well, though. This franchise has had some absolutely incredible villains. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman in 3 is the best of them all. But obviously, you know,
Oh,
Sean
yeah.
Harris and Henry Cavill and John
terrifying
Voight
one.
and even Doug Ray Scott, who gets I think a bad rap. Genuinely, Mission Impossible 4 is the only one where the villain doesn't do anything. But yeah, Gabriel, he just amounts to this cackling, mustache twirling villain. I think is fun, but ultimately maybe not the greatest for the final. I think you get to the final like 30 or 40 minutes, and my God, do we lock in. It is incredible. The whole submarine sequence is great. We then get a little bit of time after that. I'm not a massive fan of the whole Grace kind of romantic suggestion with Ethan. He had it with Ilsa, man.
Yeah.
And she died, and that was
That's
that
the
should have been
thing.
end of
That's
it.
the thing
Yeah.
I struggle with is we set up this romance between Ethan and Ilsa from Rogue Nation, which I think is a great story. I thought she was going to come back. That's what I was thinking. I thought she was going to come back. I was sitting there. Now I know how it feels for Taskmaster fans from Thunderbolts to be like, she's going to come back. She's going to come back.
Yeah.
She didn't come back.
At the end, when they all meet in Trafalgar Square, I was like, and then Ilsa is gonna walk off with Ethan, right? Right?
Yeah. Funny enough, I was in
But, you
Trafalgar
know.
Square after watching the movie. I was like, huh.
Did you
This
see
is where
Tom
they-
Cruise? Did you nod at him?
I was like, yes. Are you alone? I have friends everywhere. Oh no, this is not.
Nice. The whole ending is so fantastic. You know, once we move beyond the weird Ethan and Grace lying together, and that is so suggestive.
Yeah.
And we did Julia. That was beautiful. That
That was
arc
nice.
ends in Fallout, and then we also have Ilsa as well. And I just think that we're saving the world, guys. We don't need to write in this romance or whatever we're calling it. I'm happy
True.
they didn't actually consummate that. You know, I'm happy they weren't all
Yeah.
smoochy at the end. But you lock in with the bomb and the wiring of the Doomsday Vault and the planes, and Benji is on his last life, and Paris is keeping him alive, and Grace has to rewire everything and take the entity out, and then Donlo and his wife and Tarzan's character, I can't remember his name, they're all trying to make the bomb not go nuclear and get out in time. And I was so happy that everyone lived. The moment at the end when Ethan is wandering the mountains of South Africa and Luther's voiceover is going on telling us about the importance of humanity and of destiny and of faith, and our lives are the sum of our choices, the culmination of our actions. Brilliant. It's beautiful. And even then, seeing the president reunite with her son, and I just thought that the ending nailed it so much that you come
Yeah.
out of the movie and it doesn't even matter of all the clunk, all the mess that you have had to endure. But the real
Yeah.
question, John,
Yes.
is Ethan Hunt's haircut. How do we feel? Haircut number
Um.
8.
Okay, this haircut didn't really stick with me. I think
Mm.
there's so much better haircuts in the Mission Impossible franchise. Maybe Fallout was the best
Yeah,
haircut.
I think Fallout was the best one, 100%.
It's so funny that we just tie back into Fallout and we say, "Oh my God, it's absolute cinema," which
Yeah,
it is.
that's how you know Fallout's the best one because it has the best hair. This film's set 2 months after Dead Reckoning, and the hair that Ethan has is like, yeah, this guy has grown his hair out and hasn't cut it. It doesn't look great,
No.
but we can
Oh.
only wish that one day he will have the luscious locks of Mission Impossible 2, the greatest of all time. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that
Imagine it'd
because
be
I
like
know
Cousin It from Adam's Family. You know, like the long
with
hair.
all the hair.
Yeah. Oh
So
my
now
God.
the less important ranking, of course.
Oh yes, of course.
Where does this film sit in relation to the other ones?
I do have to say the biplane stunt is my favorite stunt in the entire franchise. That was so intense to watch. But obviously, number one is Fallout, but then Rogue Nation. I haven't rewatched them in a couple of years, but I think this would sit somewhere maybe 4 or 5 in the list. I think
Right.
it's a great film. It should be watched on a big screen. Like, for example, Dune, that was shot in IMAX, and
Yeah.
you don't get to see the insane quality. So I think this is a movie that you should watch on the big screen. What about you? Where are you going to put it in your ranking?
Since I've just watched them recently, I can give you quite a definitive ranking. Top is Fallout, second is Dead Reckoning, third is original Mission Impossible, fourth is Mission Impossible 3, fifth is Rogue Nation, sixth is Mission Impossible 2, seventh is Final Reckoning, and then eighth is Ghost Protocol. And I want to stress, I don't think any of these films are bad. Ghost Protocol is a 7 out of 10. That's a good movie. You know,
That is a good
Fallout is a
movie.
9. These films are incredible. This franchise, I mean, if this film gets like to $7 billion, a dollar per person on Earth, if they announced a ninth film, how would you feel?
I don't know. I wouldn't mind it actually, but this felt like a proper swan song for Ethan Hunt and his team. A beautiful ending. This is like a world-ending thing, literally world-ending, like Kirby fighting God or something like that, man.
Ethan Hunt is Kirby. Like, I agree, this film, it ends it on such a note that you don't need another one. But of course, if Cruise and McQuarrie wants to do another one, who am I to say no? But there's one thing that I want that I hoped would happen in this film, but it didn't. There's
Yeah.
probably reasons for that. They need to bring back William Brandt, Jeremy Renner. Where was he? Where is he? In universe, I need to know. If only there was an app where we could discuss where he is in the Mission Impossible franchise. I need
Oh my
to
God,
know.
Tom, what app would that be?
Theoretically, that would be an insane app to even think about.
Whoa.
Genuinely, where is Brandt? I was hoping he would be the secretary or something. I was hoping for some really exciting, like,
That would be
you know,
insane.
you know,
That would be a
you know
great
when-
plot twist. He was like the
Right?
secretary.
Yeah,
Wow.
like he's arguing with Kitteridge. Where did he go after Rogue Nation? Was he also stationed on a radio tower on the other side of the world? Like, where is he? Is he guarding some safe secret?
Is this
like,
part of the entity's plan?
yeah, exactly. Where is he?
Is he placed somewhere in the world?
Yeah,
Is
like,
he the
you
rabbit's
know-
foot? Was he the
No,
rabbit's foot?
No. I am a sucker for bringing back old characters, especially when they do it well, like I think they did it with Don Lowe. We love Jeremy Renner.
Still mad about the idea that they got rid of part 1 and part 2 out of the title.
Yeah,
for that.
It's
Going on. This is the same thing for Wicked as well. Wicked, I got your
Yeah.
eyes on you. Literally, why do people change part 1 and part 2? Like, that's the exciting thing.
You know what film didn't chicken out with the part 2?
Yes.
June, my beloved.
June. That's it. That's it for Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible. What am I saying?
Oh.
My brain decided to die.
What are you gonna give this film out of 10?
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I'm gonna miss it actually if they don't continue it. I feel like the after effects when watching this film was so sad. I was like, oh wow.
The ending feels so final. That monologue. But also, things need to end. It's never good when something goes on for too long. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that is why I'd like to announce this is the final episode of the podcast. No, I'm kidding. Can you imagine? On episode 248, the weirdest number that anyone's ever... Like, surely we would wait till 250. No, we're quitting today. No.
No,
We're not going
no.
anywhere. Don't worry.
No.
Anyway,
No.
I think I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. When this film hits, it hits. But obviously,
It
you know,
hits.
it is a mess. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you're listening on YouTube and you liked it, you can like and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can follow and give us a 5-star review if you think we're worthy. And next week, listen, and/or 1 week, Mission Impossible the next week. Can it get better? Yes, it can. It's Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme. I
Oh
am
my God.
so excited. This came out of nowhere. I'd
Yeah.
forgotten that there was a Wes Anderson film coming out, but I am so ready for this.
Excited to talk about that. Thumbs up.
Yes, and
Yeah.
you can send us an email, oursteinfilmpod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on Finishing Scheme if you want, and we'll answer it right here on the podcast.
Yes, and you can follow us on Instagram at Out of Time Film Pod to see our incredible thumbnails from Zain Afzal, on Twitter for more thoughts from Tom and me, and TikTok to see edited clips, which are all also on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. And you can find links to that all in the description below. Thanks for Jones-Meyer for the excellent theme, and Ronan Phillips for vocals as always. And I think that's everything. Take it, we're giving.
Give anything back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.